Located in Lexington, Kentucky, this story is about a family with a dad, Ben, a mom, Lily, and their daughter, Kale, who live on a ranch. They used to have horses on their ranch, but not anymore. One morning, Kale caught Ben on his way to work. Ben had said he brought her to work that day, so Kale wanted to make sure he'd keep his word. Ben worked at the racehorses training ground and racetrack, and Kale loved seeing the horses because their ranch didn't have any horses, only an empty stable. At the racetrack, Kale ran into her dad's buddies, Balon, who takes care of the horses at the stable, and Manolan, a jockey in training. Before every horse race kicked off, it was Ben and Balon's responsibility to check that the racing horses were all good to go. Ben thought that a horse named Sonia shouldn't race in the next event that day, but the owner, Palmer, insisted because a big shot named Prince Tarek had placed a bet on Sonia. The doctor said Sonia was healthy, but Ben didn't think she should race because of her weird behavior. Palmer still wanted Sonia to race, saying it wasn't Ben's call. Long story short, the race started and Sonia was really giving it her all.
Maybe this is your day, honey. Come on.
Everyone figured she'd win again, being the champ and all, but then she had a wipeout and the jockey went down. No one saw that coming. Kale and Ben rushed to the racetrack. The doctor quickly diagnosed Sonia's fracture. Ben told the doctor to take Sonia back to her stall. Sonia was about to be put down right away, but Ben wanted to get an x-ray of her leg first. Palmer still blamed Ben for letting Sonia compete, despite it was him who insisted at first. He said that Sonia's racing days were over. He was about to sign the papers to put Sonia down, but Ben grabbed the form. He was mad at Palmer for not caring about the horses or the jockeys. He also didn't like it when Palmer referred to Balon and Manolan by their nationality. Palmer was really mad at Ben for what he did, so he straight up fired him and told him to get out and take his friends with him. He even tried to shortchange Ben on his salary, offering only $6,000 instead of $9,000. Ben was irritated but agreed as long as he could bring Sonia with him home. Then Palmer insulted Ben, calling him stupid for trading $3,000 for a crappy horse. When Ben got home, he told Manolan to call his dad, Pop, who lived somewhere else. When Pop arrived, he was mad because he was called over just to take care of a horse. Ben pleaded with his dad that the horse he brought had a broken leg bone. Pop suggested putting the horse down, but Ben reminded him that he had once treated a horse with the same problem until it was healthy again. Pop said that was a long time ago, and the horse only lasted a few years before he had to put it down. In the end, Ben had to take care of the horse alone with Balon and Manolan. The next day, a vet named Fleming told everyone that Sonia's bone was cracked but not out of place. She might be able to walk again, but her days as a racehorse was over. Manolan and Balon didn't have a job, so they started working with Ben. They were both unsure about what to do. Then Pop showed up and they all talked about Sonia's background. It turns out Sonia was related to a horse named Dreamcatcher, who won the big race and a ton of cash. They decided to cure Sonia and eventually sell her foals. When Pop heard about the plan, he wanted to help. So from that moment on, Sonia was taken care of and trained. Kale was stoked because she finally got a horse at her ranch. She was trying to get a closer look at Sonia when she accidentally fell and startled her. Ben got on Kale's case, trying to make her understand that Sonia wasn't just a pet. That night, Kale snuck out of her room through the window, grabbed some ice cream from the kitchen, and headed to the stable. When she got there, she saw Sonia outside, and it looked like Sonia wanted the ice cream she had, so she gave it to her and she gobbled it up in one bite. Then she gave her the other ice cream she had. Kale was really happy that night because she got to hang out with Sonia. One time, Manolan invited Kale to come visit him at the ranch where he worked. Manolan used to race horses, but he got in a bad accident, and now he just trained horses by himself on the track. He was still a jockey trainer, though, and worked with horses owned by other people. After the accident, his shoulders, ribs, and lungs were all messed up, but he was still out there doing what he loved. Every night, Kale would come to the stable to have some ice cream with Sonia. Once they finished, they would put the ice cream sticks on the edge of the stable. One time, Kale ran into her dad at the ranch. Ben and Kale didn't really have a tight bond. She was actually closer to her grandpa. Pop Ben mentioned to Kale that the ranch used to be gorgeous back in the day. Pop used to have a bunch of horses and made money selling foals, but those good times were gone. Now they only had one sick horse in the stables. After a few months, Ben took off Sonia's bandages and the bar on her legs. Sonia was able to stand on her own, even though she couldn't stand for very long. Later that morning, Fleming checked Sonia and took a sample to see if she could have baby horses. If everything looked good, she could get pregnant. Later, Ben went with Cale to meet his old friend. He was looking for a male horse for Sonia. When they got to a horse ranch, Cale was thrilled to see the famous horses that had won races up close. These horses belonged to Bill, Pop's friend. Bill then showed them the horse they could borrow, named Grand Slam. Ben was thrilled, but he didn't realize it wasn't free. Bill asked for $15,000 instead of the usual $200,000 as a favor to a friend. But he didn't know Ben was broke and couldn't afford it. In the end, Ben had to leave without Grand Slam. Cale was telling Pop all about how amazing Grand Slam looked up close. Pop had never seen the horse in person before. She really wanted to learn how to ride horse, and even though Pop could have taught her, Ben didn't want him to. Pop asked Cale to give her dad a coffee can with his savings in it. Ben didn't want Pop's help, but Pop still wanted Ben to breed Sonia. He made Ben take the money because he thought Ben was really good with horses and wanted him to get back into racing. Ben said he would give Pop his money back later. Then he went to the stables and told Cale that Sonia's real name was Sonador, which means dreamer in Spanish. One night, Ben told his wife Lily that Palmer asked him to work again, but after what Palmer did, Lily told Ben to find another job instead. The issue was that they owed money to the bank and their property was at risk of being taken away. That morning, Ben told Ballon to hit up Bill again because they could afford Grand Slam, but Fleming broke the news that Sonia would never be able to have a baby. She's sterile. Ben was freaking out because he had no clue what to do. He started to think that bringing Sonia was a big mistake, but for Lily, Sonia brought their family back together. Cale had been without a father figure for a long time, even though she really wanted to be with Ben. Ben said that if Cale hadn't been with him that night, maybe he would have let them put Sonia down and he wouldn't have lost his job. Sadly, Cale heard her parents fighting, and it really upset her to hear her father blame her. So she packed up her stuff and headed to the stable. She was hoping to get Sonia to leave with her. But just as she was getting ready to leave, Ben showed up and was surprised to see Cale riding on Sonia. Cale didn't waste any time and rode off on Sonia. Ben tried to catch up in his car and finally caught Cale just as she was about to fall off Sonia. Cale, who had never been on a horse before, was totally freaked out by her first ride. After they brought Cale back home, Manolan and Ballon told Ben they had followed Sonia in the car. Sonia circled the ranch 4 times and didn't slow down at all. She seemed really strong. Then they took Sonia to Fleming, and the most recent x-rays showed that her leg bones had healed completely. She was ready to get back to racing, but it all depended on Ben. Manolan drove Sonia to practice once more. There's a story about a horse that went through the same thing and ended up coming back to win races again. Ben was hoping Sonia could do the same and reclaim her glory days. Sonia had been practicing every day, and her time was good, but it was not enough to win in her old arena. Pop thought she should do a less prestigious race to get her competitive spirit back first. The only issue was Ben's worried someone might try to claim Sonia, but Pop said no one would want a horse with a broken leg. In the end, Ben decided to put Sonia back in the race. Sonia used her full name, Sonador, for his first comeback. Her leg wasn't causing any problems anymore. Sonador went from last place to 3rd place in the race, which was a pretty good start. If their jockey had been braver, she could have even come in 2nd. That night, they could have made $1,000, but Ben was totally surprised when Sonador got claimed and sold for $15,000. Cale was super bummed about it. When they got home, she just cried in Sonador's stall. Ben said sorry because he never wanted to sell Sonador, and he didn't even know someone would want to buy her. Cale tried to get that it was all just business, but she still couldn't handle it. Ben knew his daughter was already way too attached to Sonador. One night, Ben went to a meeting at Cale's school for parents. They were all taking turns reading their kids' writings. Ben ended up reading Cale's story to the class, which is a fantasy about a king and a magical horse. As he read, Ben realized the story was about him, his family, and Sonador. It made him see things from Cale's perspective and understand that he had been selfish. When Ben got back from the meeting, he went to Cale's room and said sorry. He saw how much Cale cared for him, and suddenly their father-daughter relationship grew stronger again. One morning, Pop came by to tell Kale that someone was looking for her. He said he just got a goat and she was supposed to take it out. But it turned out that it wasn't a goat, it was Sonador, who had returned to the ranch. Ben and Pop decided to buy Sonador back. Not only that, Ben gave 51% of Sonador's ownership to Kale, 39% to Pop, and 10% to Manolan and Balan, meaning that Kale could make all the decisions about Sonador and Ben wouldn't get in the way. From that day on, Kale took great care of Sonador, organizing her training schedule and handling everything about her very seriously. One night, Kale went to her dad and told him she had read all of Sonador's race records. She then asked him to help her train Sonador so they could enter a big race together. Ben agreed to help and they worked out a deal where he would get 15% of the winnings. This brought them closer as they spent a lot of time training Sonador together. During dinner, Kale excitedly announced Sonador's upcoming race and her choice of jockey, Manolan. The race Kale picked was the Breeders' Stakes, a high-level competition. To qualify, Sonador needed to be selected by the judges based on her performance, but Ben didn't think it was likely. Lily, however, wanted Kale to dream big and begged Ben to support her in reaching for her dream. Reluctantly, Ben agreed for the sake of his daughter. Kale was determined. She got up super early to train Sonador. Even though their time wasn't great, she still had high hopes that Sonador would improve and do better in the future. One day, everyone who would compete in the Breeders' Stakes had a meeting for the entry selection. Prince Satyr, who was Prince Tarek's brother, couldn't enter his horse because it didn't have enough points. Then it was Kale's turn, and Palmer made fun of her for bringing Sonador to the contest. Actually, Sonador didn't have enough points to participate, but she might still have a shot because of the injury rule. The catch was, it cost a hefty $120,000 and the payment had to be made right away. Kale said she would send the money ASAP. The results would be revealed the next day at 11 p.m. That night at the stable, Kale was really wishing and crossing her fingers that Sonador would get picked as one of the 14 horses that would race in the Breeders' Stakes. She just wanted Ben to believe in their horse and think positively. The day after, the judges announced the horses that would be competing. Luckily, Sonador was the last horse to join the competition, while Prince Satyr had to skip out this year. Palmer was feeling anxious about Ben being able to compete, so that night he went to Ben's ranch. As usual, he came to insult Ben. He said that Kale should be ready because her horse with that broken leg would finish last, but then he offered $20,000 to bring Sonador home. Everyone laughed, knowing he was actually afraid that Sonador would win. When he realized he was being mocked, Palmer raised the offer to $40,000, but Sonador wasn't Ben or Pop's horse and both couldn't pull the decision. Kale boldly refused Palmer's offer. Eventually, Palmer offered a check for $100,000 plus the opportunity for Ben to work with him again, but Kale turned down the offer once again. Though Sonador could rave, they still had one more thing to take care of to find someone who could cover the cost of the race registration. It was the deadline to come up with the money. To lift Kale's spirits, Pop mentioned another race that didn't have a registration fee. In response, Kale advised Manolan to stop trying to slim down for his gig as a jockey because they couldn't afford to enter the race anyway. Then, out of the blue, Ben asked them to come with him. They ended up getting invited to Prince Satyr's place. After that, Ben instructed Kale to have a chat with Prince Satyr when they had the chance. Kale boldly asked for a sponsor to cover the $120,000 registration fee. Prince Satyr was excited to compete with his brother, Prince Tarek, and when he saw Kale's confidence, he agreed to sponsor him. That night, Ben went to see Pop. He wasn't sure if Sonador could beat the other horse, but Pop told Ben to bring Kale and Sonador to the Breeders' Stakes tomorrow anyway, because it's every horse owner's dream. Ben realized that it's not just about winning or losing. He then asked Pop to come watch the race with them. Long story short, at the race, Kale convinced Ben that their horse was going to win. Ben had once saved Sonador's life, and now she was going to repay the favor by running her heart out for him on the track. At the showcase, Palmer was talking big about his champ, Goliath Boy, in front of the reporters. He knew his horse was kind of a bully, so he suggested getting a picture with Sonador to crush her mentality, causing some tension. Both horses were getting worked up and making a ruckus. Ben was worried the same thing would happen to Sonador on the track, so he told Balan to bring her inside, but Sonador didn't want to go. Kale said it was like she was saying she wasn't scared and was ready to race, so Ben told Manolan to take her to the track. The race started, and the horses entered the arena. People started placing their bets, and most of them picked Goliath Boy, But Ben went for the underdog, Sonador, hoping to strike it rich if Sonador pulled off a win. He believed in her. Goliath Boy was booking it up in the front while Sonador got left in the dust. Sonador bumped into another horse, causing Manolan's leg to slip off the saddle, but he managed to get it back on in a flash. Because of that, Sonador fell behind, but Ben was thrilled to see Kale and his wife having a blast. There was still plenty of time left in the race, and it wasn't over yet. Suddenly, Sonador started coming up from behind and was running super fast, passing all the other horses and catching up to Goliath Boy in no time. As they got closer to the finish line, Sonador kicked it into high gear and was able to pass Goliath Boy. She ended up winning the race. Prince Satyr gave them big congrats from up in the stands. Kale and Ben were over the moon. Who would have guessed that the horse that was almost put down could come back and win the most important race?